What's up guys, my name is Evan Kidd. I'm a filmmaker from North Carolina and actually recently just created my debut feature film, Son of Clowns. It is a 95-minute feature we shot completely independently and it was filmed with the Canon C100. You know, with filmmaking as a whole, I think a lot of times we get roped into what camera is the best or, you know, what specs can work best for this film. Every year there's a brand new camera, and I think for me I really break a camera down or a choice of camera for any film I make based on what's going to really push us to the furthest capabilities of what we can do to get me the most time with my actors. You know, I'm a director first and foremost, but I also do DP work as well for other people's films. So it kind of puts me in an interesting position to where, you know, I do a lot of corporate DP work, I do narrative DP work. I just shot a short in New Orleans this past week. And it was really interesting because I actually used a 6D for that. But, you know, for what we were trying to go for, the director told me we need to move fast. We have to make our days. It's imperative. The location we're in, you know, we got to be in and out. So for me, it was interesting just because I needed the camera that would really make me as nimble and quick as possible, while also kind of minimizing the setups we need to do, you know, something that could be handheld if it needed to be. So I think a lot of those decisions are very vital and key. And, you know, coming back to my film, Son of Clowns, my director of photography, Ned Phillips, actually owned the Canon C100. And I really do think the Canon C100 is probably one of the best filmmaking tools in terms of camera that you can get today as an independent filmmaker. We thought about renting, we thought about using my own personal 5D, but kind of came back to what's gonna give us the highest quality image, because it was a feature and we wanted to really push it a little past the territory of a DSLR if we could. You know, by no means were we against it, but, you know, at the same time, we thought about the C100 and C300 line, and it made the most sense because Ned, our DP, owned that C100, and he also owned an Atomos Ninja recorder. And it's great because it's actually a monitor that you can put on top of your C100 rig, and what that allows you to do is not only view your image, obviously bigger, as opposed to looking on the viewfinder or the LCD screen built into the camera, but really it also lets you record flat, a very flat image, which is almost raw. It doesn't record true raw, it does record Apple ProRes, but for our intents and purposes that was perfect, because I'm one of those who really like to get in there in the editor when it comes down to it and really grade every fine detail. I love color correction, I love getting in there, and really for us it made the most sense because on a budget, the camera that allowed us to move the quickest and to do the least number of setups and to be on the go was the C100. And to me, that was just an added treat. You know, we originally were not expecting to have that Ninja, so it really allowed us to push the image further. What you're seeing right now on the screen is a flat image directly from the Ninja camera on Son of Clowns. Again, this is raw image, and now you're seeing the color graded image, and you can see the intricacies and kind of how far you could really push it. You know, to me, honestly, the flat image looks pretty great on its own. A lot better than the digital version, which we also would record as a backup. So basically the way we had our rig was Ned would record directly into the Ninja, but we'd have a backup of everything we did on the SD card from the C100. And that was not a bad look at all, but we really enjoyed having that flat image at our disposal later down the road in the edit. I'm really inspired by resource-based filmmaking. Absolutely consider myself an independent filmmaker really on every level. And so for me, when we came to looking for a camera, it was all about accessibility and portability. I love the handheld look. So the C100 is great because, you know, it's not huge, but it's also big enough to where if you were to handhold it, if you have an awesome DP like I did in Ned, you can basically have a very good handheld image that's also pretty stable. You know, you really have some good weight on that C100 between everything on it, especially if you're throwing that Ninja adapter like we had. So it's a great camera for handheld. You know, you don't really have to build a whole bunch of shoulder rigs and steady cams and mounts, because in my opinion, if your DP is skilled enough, you will be okay. And you'll get that handheld image that's not like super crazy shaky or anything like that. Because again, looking at the images that we captured, we were on the move so much. And, you know, for us, it was really a matter of, you know, 14 plus hour days. I think our longest day was close to 20 hours. It was just absolutely nuts. We shot Son of Clowns on a production schedule of 10 shooting days. So the camera had to adapt. The camera had to be just as game as all of our crew members. You know, our crew members were basically doing the indie film thing where, you know, sleeping on air mattresses, really accessible locations, trying to cram a lot of pages into a day, while still, taking the time we needed. For me, my number one priority is really how can I get as much time devoted to my actors as possible. And so I knew in the C100 that it would be a great versatile camera because we wouldn't have that many tech issues. We wouldn't have to have much freezing or anything like you might get in a Red or something more, quote unquote fancy. You do want something that won't give you a lot of crap along the way. Filmmaking, as they say, is hard enough as it is, so why complicate yourself or complicate your matters as a filmmaker? For me, again, that C100 really truly resonated well. And again, it gelled with the type of flow we were going for as a film. And I think that flow is great because if you have a camera that's fighting the flow of your film, if you're, somehow getting your hands on, a really fancy camera that takes a lot of time, a lot of setup, you can't just run and gun with it, then you are going to have to build your days as a film and as a production to accommodate that. Because again, I don't want to get bogged down if my production schedule is only 10 days and we can't go over. So it was imperative we made our days, and it was also imperative that our camera matched that mentality. So just a note for people out there, if you are looking for a 4K camera, that is a drawback. C100 does not have that. I truly at this point don't really care too much for 4K. I think down the road I will. But again, as a resource-based independent filmmaker, I know my means and I know my level. So for me, 4K wasn't really even on the table. So, if you are looking for that, you might want to look elsewhere. But for me, the 1080p that we did manage to capture from the image on the C100 with the Ninja Apple ProRes, again, very close to RAW. So seeing that ProRes resolution at 422 was just imperatively great in my opinion, gave me what I wanted for an independent feature and really pushed the boundaries to what we thought that C100 could even do in the first place. Our big boy lens, which we actually shot probably 90% of the film on, was the Canon 24-105 L series lens. In my opinion, a great piece of glass, all around very versatile. If I had my choice, I'd love to have, fixed prime lenses for every single shot. But I knew that the way we were going to shoot would not dictate that. We needed to be able to zoom. I needed Ned to have the range he needed quickly and for him not to be bogged down by switching lenses with me every 10 seconds if I wanted a different angle, one setup or one shot later. So that 24-105 with the zoom really gave us a crisp and clear image while being, a high enough piece of glass to differentiate it from other zoom lenses while still giving us the range and the flexibility to move fast and keep that production schedule on point. Budget was tight, production days were slim, so we really had to make do with what we had. And I think the fact that we had such a great cast and crew that really gelled and really accommodated one another, from our camera department down to our actors to everyone else on Son of Clowns. So really when it came down to it, we would pool our resources together and really make the best film that we could make. And I think community and resource-based filmmaking like that, where maybe you don't have enough money to get a Red, but you have the lens and your buddy who shoots stuff has the body of the camera, you come together, you make a nice little camera package. And that's basically what we did. And I think if you find dedicated, hardworking, passionate individuals who are willing to do that with your film, with your camera, or what have you, you'll really create the best film that you can and create a great image.